Hello, it's 11th of August, 2025. I made this video about this whole street dog menace and what has happened with the Supreme Court directive today. But I've gone on like a full ramble in this video, and it's I've spoken about quite a lot of things, different angles, different stories, different ideas. It's kind of like more of a yapping, rambling, and just venting kind of a video. And so I hope you'll watch it, engage with it, share it with people, and I think this is the need of the hour for everyone to like get vocal and engage with people who are sharing credible sources and information around street dogs and this whole absolutely horrible, horrendous thing that has just happened today. If you are in the dog community who love street dogs, then you would have heard about the news that is coming from Delhi today. It's quite a distressing news, and I think we must talk about it. But while we talk about it, I will be showing some footage here, which I wanted to keep looking at as well. Yep. So I thought let's talk about this whole street dog menace, the growing street dog menace that if you just Google this for news, you will see articles after articles written about the street dog menace. All the videos that you're going to see on the footage here are all street dogs whom we encounter when we go on our daily walk in a lake where many people frequent this lake and there are many dogs there. But then, I get notification after notification on my phone about this new street dog menace article every day. And today, something very distressing came out of this whole thing. It started from an article that came out in Times of India, which said, City hounded by strays, kids pay price. This was about a girl who lost her life, initially thought out to be a victim of rabies after being bitten by dogs. When you see that article, when you read that article, you will see a couple of things popped out at me. One was that the article said that there was a suspicion of a rabid dog in the neighborhood before this girl was bitten. That is so unfortunate that if you do suspect that a dog is affected by rabies and no action is being taken on this, who is to be blamed here for this situation, right? Second is that the article also talks about how the girl and her parents sought treatment for her, which is great because in a lot of cases, post exposure treatment is not, people don't seek it and then end up falling prey to this situation, right? But in this case, they did seek treatment, but she started showing a few symptoms later and she was not given timely medical intervention, which right now a lot of people are saying that the parents of the girl have allegedly come out and shared that she didn't die of rabies, she died of meningitis. Now, after this happened, the Supreme Court took a suo motu cognizance of this issue, and today they have directed that all street dogs be removed from the streets and put in shelters in Delhi, Ghaziabad, Gurgaon, and Noida, starting with 5,000 street dogs, where the shelters for these dogs should be ready in the next 6 to 8 weeks, if I'm not wrong. Um, of course, this is not a great solution, but we have to look at this from multiple angles. Of course, it's an emotionally charged conversation. You have to keep people happy because people are scared. People are worried for the children's safety. They're worried for their own safety. They're worried for elder safety. All of that is there, and then you have to address that. And you do so by saying that these street dogs have to be removed from streets, which are their homes, by the way. There are multiple issues with this. There are legal issues with this, there are logistical issues with this, there are ethical. and welfare issues with this. There are also issues of human dog coexistence that comes over here, human dog conflict here. And we have to talk about it in multiple ways. I bring my personal experience as well as my professional expertise into this conversation as a dog behavior consultant, a dog mom, and an applied ethologist whose work is to observe street dogs, learn from street dogs, and really study them and understand them, right? So I am bringing to the table my perspective of this entire situation, which may or may not be yours, but I am inviting you to look at this from my perspective and consider this to be one such lived experience and lived reality. When we come to the legal aspect of it, and then I won't touch upon for too long about the legal and the logistical aspects because a lot of people are talking about it and they are much better equipped to talk about it, but I will touch upon it as well because both of them have some aspects of welfare and ethics and human dog coexistence in it. Legally, as many people have been pointing out, is in direct conflict with what our constitution and our law talks about when it comes to street dogs. Street dogs are legally protected and you cannot relocate dogs. The way to address population and rabies has been to catch, neuter, vaccinate, and so you catch them from their places, neuter them and vaccinate them, and return them back to their own streets, not to any other street, to their own street. And it recognizes the law, the constitution recognizes that relocation can cause distress, can cause survival issues, and also threaten their life. So the constitution does recognize that relocation is harmful for the dogs, and so it is illegal to relocate. So this directive to remove all the street dogs and put them in a shelter is in conflict with our constitution and how to deal with dogs as per constitution and laws of Animal Birth Control as well as Animal Welfare Board of India. There is, of course, the issue of growing population and fear of rabies. Both exist, and maybe rightfully so, but the solution to that is not relocation to shelters. Why is that? What are the logistical challenges to this? You are saying that 5,000 street dogs will be housed in multiple shelters that needs to be ready in 6 to 8 weeks. If you are in India and have ever encountered any public infrastructural planning, construction, maintenance, and efficiency, it doesn't take much for you to answer for yourself whether this is possible. Whether this is possible and possible to do it efficiently, ethically, and in a manner that is also sustainable. Apart from that, there has been no population census of the street dogs in Delhi for the last over 10 years. The last one was in 2012, where the population was estimated around 40,000, 50,000, I think. But today, we're talking about housing 5,000 dogs. Start there. Okay, assume this is phase one, pilot project, whatever it is. But today, they estimate that the population is anywhere between 500,000 to 1 million. Are you building shelters for that many number of dogs? Okay. Is there space for it? Have you identified space for it? What about trained personnel to take care of these dogs? What about resources that are provided for these dogs? Is that going to be state sponsored? Is that going to be donated by individuals or organizations raise funds for it? And think about this. The conversation is about putting multiple groups of dogs who do not belong to the same family, same group, same pack. I don't use the word pack, but I think that is what a lot of people would understand. The idea is to put multiple different groups of dogs under one shelter and expect them to not have conflict. expect them to be comfortable in each other's presence? Have you ever seen street dogs who cross over to some other dog's street and the conflict that ensues after it? And you're expecting that they will all live harmoniously in shelters for the rest of their lives? Or is it that if you remove them from the streets, it is no more anybody's problem because they could be living in any kind of place, in any kind of setup, in any standard of care? And it won't matter because people are not talking about it, people are not asking about it, people don't care as long as they're not in front of us. Then we have the issue that this is not even scientifically proven that relocation is the solution for your population control or for rabies eradication. And this is one of the posts that is up on Instagram and by a seasoned rescuer. And I'm just going to read out. So here they have spoken about, this is by Aniruddha Ravindra, Bangalore, and a seasoned rescuer here and an animal welfare activist. And he has spoken about how dog relocation has failed worldwide. What are the issues with dog relocation? One, creates vacuum effect. Vacuum effect essentially is when you move dogs from a certain locality, it creates space in the ecosystem for new dogs to come. So you get rid of known dogs, dogs you took care of, dogs who had now become friendly enough with the people in the neighborhood, dogs who had you were able to understand, recognize, know about their history, their health, background, all of it, um, to new dogs whose vaccination status you have no idea about. So now you have to do the entire process, entire shebang again. Build rapport with the dogs, get them vaccinated, take care of them, get to understand their group dynamics. I've had this issue where in our street, in my parents' house, the previous house that they were living in, we had street dogs who came to our street because there were no street dogs on that street. Right? So, one after another, dogs started coming into this place. Now, a lot of them were not from the same group of dogs. So there were different groups of dogs, maybe one or two would come, and then another, one or two would come, and they're from different groups. And now they have to build a whole new social group, and they have their own dynamics. And then to have a stable, group, it takes a while for you to then understand, okay, what is the dynamic between each of these dogs here? So you get into a problem. Removing dogs you got familiar with, who got familiar with you, who were well taken care of, who had become friendly with this neighborhood, to now dogs you don't know well enough. So you have to build this entire rapport again. That's one challenge with relocation of dogs. Then there's obviously fighting for resources. We have had a street dog who seems to have been wrongly relocated here from somewhere or has wandered from somewhere to our street. And our three street dogs don't appreciate new street dogs coming into our street. So when they don't appreciate new dogs, in the street does create conflict. If the dogs are not able to resolve the conflict because of lack of resources or protection of very high value resources, will then lead to conflict, which escalates. That's another problem. So if you relocate dogs and multiple groups of dogs get together who don't know each other, conflict will arise. Then there is an example that was given in this post is China in 2013, where relocation campaigns in multiple provinces led to 70% of dogs dying from fights or starvation within months. This is what is going to happen when you put all these dogs who don't know each other in one shelter together. The other thing that can happen when you have the vacuum effect that I spoke earlier about is that you take away dogs who are friendly with humans, who work well with humans, who often cooperate with humans, and are easy to take and vaccinate and all of those things. And while they are scavengers and they move away, you remove dogs, you then replace them with other animals who take up the same ecological niche as dogs. Drop in dogs will create rise in other animals, and these animals may not be as friendly with humans, as cooperative with humans, as willing to be handled by humans. So we are not only taking away dogs who help us manage the ecosystem, we will bring in animals whom we may not be able to work with in our ecosystem. So that's another thing to think about. And of course, collapse of community control, stable street dog packs prevent entry of outsiders and regulate population naturally. And again, we have seen this happen where our street dogs keep other street dogs away. Multiple times, new street dogs have attempted to make the street their house and haven't been able to because our dogs maintain the street to be our own, their own. So, isn't it better to take care of these three street dogs and care well for them, reduce conflict with them here, offer support to caregivers of these dogs, reduce the possibilities of threat to these dogs so that we don't have new dogs coming over, new unknown dogs with whom you have to build the entire rapport once again. So that's the challenge about, that's the downfall of moving, relocation. Now let's look at what works. And here's a study. I will share the link in the description below. There's a study done where in Goa, they attempted to have widespread vaccination program coupled with, it was not just vaccinating the dogs. They did vaccinate the dogs, but they did rabies education. So first pillar was dog vaccination, and they managed to get the coverage. The mean vaccination coverage in the 2016 campaign was 71.8% in all sighted dogs and 60.1% in roaming dogs. However, some areas of the state were not vaccinated. In 2017, intensive methods were applied statewide, achieving an estimate coverage of 71.7% in all dogs. So this was pillar one, which is getting dogs vaccinated. The rabies education was a second pillar. In total, school-based rabies education classes were delivered to 694,271 school children and 31,251 teachers between 2014 and 2019. Activities to distribute rabies educational messages throughout communities intensified with a similar time frame, which resulted in the delivery of rabies lessons to 79 people through community groups, local authorities, and public events. So there was vaccination, there was education, then there was dog rabies surveillance. The third pillar of the program was rabies surveillance within the dog population. So there was rabies hotline that was made available. The service was launched in 2017. Information on dog bites and human rabies deaths was acquired from the Directorate of Health Government of Goa. Human rabies deaths reduced from 17 in 2014 to 0 in 2018 and 2019. So vaccination, education, and surveillance was monitored, and it was found that the instances of death from rabies came down to 0 from 17, which shows that vaccinating dogs and doing it efficiently works. Jaipur is another example. I will link the studies below. In fact, there's another article, I think it was in Hindu. This is from Chennai. The article title is Fixing India's Street Dog Problem. It's not as simple as ABC. Mumbai and Bengaluru are getting it right with WhatsApp groups, callers with QR codes, and a symbiotic relationship between dog lovers and local authorities. But elsewhere, the animal birth control program is hampered by bad implementation and a lack of resources. Since independence, India has dealt with street dogs the only way it knew how. Dogs were shot, poisoned, clubbed, drowned, and electrocuted by municipal corporations across the country. The killing went up from a few dogs in 1910s to more than 16,000 in the 1960s. In spite of this, the number of dogs showed no signs of reducing and rabies kept increasing. The reason was simple. Existing dogs kept breeding twice a year. Chennai, in collaboration with Blue Cross of India, was one of the first cities to experiment with the animal birth control program in 1996. We called it ABC to show authorities that the control of the street dog population was as simple as ABC. Mumbai began soon after, and within a few years, the program had spread to a number of cities. It got its final seal of approval in 2001 when the Indian government, under the guidance of AWBI, Animal Welfare Board of India, formalized the ABC dogs rules under the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act 1960. The problem is the inefficiency of doing this. So when we have been inefficient about scientifically backed methods, how are we going to bring in efficiency and results in methods that are not even scientifically backed and we are still inefficient? Are we going to like really remove all the street dogs from the streets? Are we going to ensure that everything that brings dogs into the streets, which is garbage piles, human waste, human refuse, all of that, we are going to remove all of it, take care of all of it, the sanitation and waste disposal and all of it, to ensure that no street dogs ever come on the streets of these towns, and then replicate it all over the country. And we're going to do it so efficiently. And then also care for all those street dogs that you have now kept in the shelters. So we are inefficient in vaccination and sterilization and putting the dogs back on their street. But we are so efficient in creating these shelters and taking care of these dogs and also ensuring the maintenance of our urban ecosystem in such a way that no street dog will ever occupy these streets. Sounds like a bit of a stretch to me. Okay, so these are all the logistical and legal issues that come with this whole situation that has happened. But what about welfare and coexistence issues? If you look at the theories about dogs, then a lot of people in the scientific world talk about how dogs have co-evolved with humans. They have co-evolved to live in cooperation and in close proximity to humans, right? Evolved, their ecological niche is to occupy human-centric environments, right? Which means that dogs are highly dependent on humans for their sustenance. As we can see, because humans can do anything they want with the dogs. Humans are also the most responsible group for dog mortality. We are the biggest reason for their deaths, especially when it doesn't happen of natural causes. So dogs understand that they cannot be in conflict with humans, and they have actually evolved to work in close proximity, in cooperation, and in partnership with humans. So when we see these rising conflicts, attacks, bites, chasing, destruction of human property, it is worth asking why the dogs who have evolved to be in cooperation are right now in conflict. It's easy to question the dogs. It's easy to say that the dogs are to be blamed here. It's a street dog menace. But is it only street dog menace? Just today, we had gone to the lake to walk and we found this injured dog, and we were trying to like provide care for him and find way to like, put him into the car, and we were waiting for, some help. And while that was happening, we were ensuring that we keep an eye on the dog and ensure that, he doesn't get lost, or like we don't lose sight of him, or he doesn't get into trouble. So we were closely monitoring him, and he was trying to hide in places away from people, because there was walkway for people to keep moving, and there were a lot of people moving around. So he kept trying to like go into the bushes, under the benches, so that, he's away from all this movement and this traffic. While doing this, he went and then sat near a bench where another lady was sitting, and another man from the side called out to that lady, "Dog is there." Yeah, okay, no problem. Then he said, "No, that dog is mad dog. Something has happened." This dog, who is bleeding profusely from the mouth, you can see fresh blood falling off of his mouth, and in like pain. And you are sitting there and then saying, "This dog is mad dog." Really pissed both me and my husband off. And my husband asked him, "Don't you see that this dog is hurt and is in pain and has injured and then, met with some kind of an accident? Why are you calling him mad dog? Have you seen this dog before?" This man says, "No, I haven't seen, but he's a mad dog." My husband was like, "Have you seen this dog do anything?" He's like, "No, but he's a mad dog. See, he's doing something with his mouth." My husband was like, "Yeah, he has gotten hurt on his mouth. It is paining. This dog, poor dog, has fracture," which we later found out, fracture in his mouth, broken jaw, and the teeth kept like clattering. And so it would make sound, and then it sounded like he was having this labored breathing. And this man says this dog is mad. The moment this man said that this dog is mad, this woman from the bench got up and then moved away. It was fair on her part because she was afraid, because you said something about this animal that made her afraid. And this is what we do. With every article we write, Street Dog Menace, every single article that we write about this, we are creating fear in people's minds about street dogs. Whereas, honestly, what we need to be doing here is to find ways to create awareness, to understand dogs, understand what might push them on the edge, how to be polite with dogs, and how to ensure that you can tell no to dogs if you don't want. Because they do listen. Humans and dogs, if they have co evolved to exist together, they both can communicate as well. So it's a matter of raising awareness, not doing this fear mongering. Because the more we do this, the more we are antagonizing street dogs, we are getting people to be against street dogs and making it believe like the entire dog species is like a threat to society. And then we need to raise awareness, we need to understand what is causing conflict. If there are dogs who are in conflict with humans, we have to ask why. Are there lack of resources? Have the dogs felt threatened? Is there human hate towards street dogs in those neighborhoods? Has there been past intimidation towards these street dogs because of which they are more wary? The other day, we were walking Zoe and our three street dogs that accompanied us on the walk. And while we were coming back, there was this new street dog, Mirchi, who has turned up in our street. And they're trying to find this new dynamic. Because as I mentioned, new dog into the street, existing street dogs, change in dynamics. Our three street dogs, Laddu, Lady, and Bala, don't really appreciate new streeties here, but they're trying to find a way to like reach a negotiation, right? But that day they were in conflict. They were barking at each other, and then Mirchi was like, "You stay away," and then these three were like, "You stay away," and then there was a little bit of barking at each other. We were trying to diffuse the situation from our end, and there's this man who's walking towards the junction where we were standing, and then he is also trying to distract these dogs. Which I was like, yeah, great, let's add to the effort of distraction so the dogs can break that conflict a little bit. So they stopped barking. Then he walked up to where he was standing. So me, my husband, Zoe, Laddu Lady, and Bala, where we were standing. And then he comes and stands and postures in front of these street dogs. He stands and, he makes himself big and he has this really intimidating body language. So this man comes and postures. And of course, these street dogs were scared. I was scared. And if I was alone, I would have screamed and ran too to save myself. That's how intimidating he was. And then we had to intervene and be like, "Why are you standing?" And because he did that, Lady and Laddo went up to him, very close to him, and started barking at him. Now, If I have to have a propaganda against street dog, it's very easy to share this snapshot of what happened, which is dogs were barking at a man walking on the street, intimidating him. Easy to share that snapshot. But what about what happened before that? So we had to intervene and we had to tell him, why are you standing there? What are you doing? Can you just walk, go your way, mind your business and go your way? Don't do this. They're getting scared. Don't do this. And then he walked a few steps ahead, turned around to where we were, and again did the same thing of posturing. And my husband then called out to the dogs because we were standing very close to where, our home, called out to the dogs, and he was like, come, let's go. The dogs followed to our home. Why do we have this innate interest to intimidate another individual, be it human, be it non-human animal? And what is this fun that we get out of it? I don't know. So where is this dog-human conflict coming from? Sure, we are seeing so many reports of street dog menace, dog attacking child, dog attacking man, dog attacking elderly person, people dying of dog attacks, dog bite cases increasing, etc., etc., etc. It's all probably factual information, but what else is happening? Nobody is looking at why this conflict is occurring. Why a species known to cooperate, a whole set of this non-human animal who is known to cooperate with humans at such a large extent, where their communication have evolved together, where the space that they occupy have evolved together. Why is there conflict existing? What's happening? Is there lack of resources? Is there conflict like this where humans are intimidating the dogs? Has there been past trauma around this? We were working on one street dog case, and the issue was that this street dog was occupying a house, uh, space right outside the house where the caregivers were, and would constantly like bark and lunge and intimidate, chase away people who would come close to the caregiver's house. We were working on it, and then, things kind of improved as well with that dog. But one of the things that was highlighted to us was that the security of that place, the society, were instructed to shoo away the dog, and they had also previously relocated a couple of other street dogs. So every time that this dog saw delivery people, security personnel, housekeeping, this dog would go barking at them, hiding away from them. So it was actually more like, don't come near me, stay away from me, I'm not feeling safe. So we spoke about how you can increase the positive human interactions that this dog could have. Right now, at this point, this dog had like 2, 3 caregivers with whom the dog had positive interaction. We said, recruit more community members, have them increase this positive interaction with this dog, for the dog to be like, yeah, okay, there are more good people than bad people. And it helped the dog to feel like, okay, not all humans are bad. Community involvement, community education, and coming up with solution on community coexistence, not just with people of different backgrounds, but also with non-human animals, other parts of our ecosystem, nature. Humans are also part of nature, but we would like to distance ourselves from it. So if dog bites, dog attacks, conflicts with humans are increasing, are there issues with resources? Is there any health concern? Is there any human instigated conflict? What's the awareness about how to navigate spaces where humans and dogs can coexist? Every navigation doesn't have to be an interaction and a positive interaction at that. You can just walk past each other and then just be indifferent. You can let the dog know you're not interested. The dog should be able to let you know that they are not interested. Or if you do have an interaction, you can have a polite, safe, healthy interaction. So how do we get to that point? Awareness, education. So while we want to address the menace, street dog menace, we must address what is happening. And let's not forget that just the last week, there has been two horrific cases of humans directing abuse towards street dogs. One from Rajasthan and one just yesterday from Lucknow. So when we are seeing article after article about street dog menace, let's not forget that there is another side where dogs are victims as well. And at the end of it, when we do all these things, when we try and then relocate street dogs and then do a half behind job at all of these things, all that we will end up having is that the most vulnerable population end up being the victims. Dogs and children, elders, economically underprivileged people, physically underprivileged people who are not able to maneuver themselves around dogs. They are the ones who will be the most affected. Our amazing people who are sitting in high rise buildings. I was just seeing another article because I was just collating a few screenshots of these articles. And I think there was one which said something along the lines of high rise residents of high rise buildings complain about street dog menace. These are the people who will want their communities sanitized of any signs of nature, unwilling to share space with anything that is different from them, including other humans. These are the same apartment complexes which will have separate lifts for house helps, for drivers, for delivery boys, because this is modern age untouchability. These are the same people who don't want anything to unsanitize their complexes. It's very fascinating, some of our apartment complex groups, usually dog itself is a polarizing conversation, very emotionally charged conversation. You say anything about dogs and there'll be like one brigade of like dog lovers, and then there'll be one brigade of haters, and then they'll go at each other. Then there's another group of people who love pet dogs, who love pedigree dogs, who love your purebred companion dogs. I remember once I was walking one of my foster dogs. She was an indie and she was also hurt and a little deformed near her hips. And I remember we had taken her for a walk. So we had like a golden retriever, we had like a beagle, and then this one. And then this child comes up and then he said, "What breed is this dog?" And I was like, she's a rescued street dog. She's an indie. Indie, this is the conditioning of what we are passing on to younger generation. And that's the other thing that we are seeing. Fear that adults have, this disgust that adults have towards dogs are being conditioned on kids. I run these apartment workshops specifically for safety around dogs for kids. And kids are loving towards dogs. There was one incident where a girl from one of these apartment complexes was previously chased by a dog and she was very afraid of. And so she was like, "I'm scared." And then we had the workshop. We spoke about how she can navigate these kind of interactions, what kind of body language to use. And I got an email a few days later saying that she encountered a similar situation, did the things that we spoke about in the workshop, and the dog walked away. No chasing. How is that possible? This whole fear that we are instilling in our kids, this whole narrative that we are running everywhere in our society. Whereas reality, if we put in the same amount of effort in mobilizing communities, in creating education programs, awareness programs, far and wide, whatever issues we are facing, we can efficiently tackle them while prioritizing coexistence. At this point, these kind of solutions where relocation of street dogs are being suggested time and again by different kinds of authorities in different places is not a coexistence solution. It's a very human centered solution, which is very, very on brand for us humans, where anything that is centered around us that caters to our needs, our desires, is all that we want to think about without looking at what might be the long term impacts of this. So it's important that this whole human dog conflict that we're seeing, especially human street dog conflict that we're seeing, has to be looked at a lot more holistically than we are trying to do right now. Let's not even get into situations about adoptions. Mass adoptions is another thing that is suggested across the board, whether you like dogs, hate dogs, love dogs. One common opinion everybody seems to have is that street dogs live in pitiable situations on streets, and so a great thing for them that can happen is to be adopted into human homes and be given life with humans. These dogs are living pitiable lives, according to many, including a lot of dog lovers. So, mass adoptions is another suggestion given for addressing population issues in street dogs. If you have ever come across any rescuer, dog shelter in your life, you will see that so many rescuers struggle to have indies adopted because there is a stigma against indies. Indies are not preferred breed of dogs for adoption, and we remove them from streets where they will be fully capable of taking care of themselves if that is a human caregiver to look after them if required, if they're vaccinated and sterilized, well integrated into the neighborhood. But we take them off the street, want to get them adopted, don't find homes for them, then put them in long term shelters where they live with other dogs in very small spaces, losing the agency to move around and interact with the dogs that they want to, with people they want to, and walk away if they don't want, and get into conflicts. So, this is one problem with adoption as one of the suggestions. The other is, why do we believe that human homes are the gold standard space for dogs? Humans time and again complain about dog behavior, that they are not able to integrate their dogs at home. People give up their dogs when their situations change. People, even as influential and with every resource disposable at them, like the President of America, have dogs who end up biting people. So we don't know how to care for dogs. We don't know how to meet their needs. We don't understand dogs well enough to be able to do that, because we want the dogs who can teach us this, the dogs who will help us understand about dogs, the dogs who give us a glimpse into the life of dogs in their natural environment without human control, are the dogs we want to remove from their homes, their spaces. Street dogs. They are the ones we're antagonizing. They are the ones we hate. They are the ones we don't want, we don't like. They are the ones we want to remove from the spaces that they occupy. And because we don't want to look at them, learn from them, observe them, respect them, give them dignity in the space that they call home, we don't understand dogs well enough to be able to be decent caregivers to them. And so we end up having multiple behavioral issues with dogs at home, for which we will spend thousands of rupees, dollars, whatever, in training them to integrate into human environments, because as if they do not know how to live in human environments. And then, of course, we believe that we are gold standard homes for these dogs. So, all in all, human dog conflict, especially human street dog conflict, cannot be resolved with relocation or removal of street dogs. That's a Western solution for Western societies, which is fully removed of nature, especially nature that humans don't appreciate or like. We have culturally lived alongside nature. Walk on your streets and you find street dogs, you find cattle, you find chicken, you find life. And I think we should embrace our culture, our way of living, our way of being, than be influenced so much by Western ideas of how urban cities must look, which is fully sanitized of anything that is not controllable by humans. That's a whole other debate for another time. One last thing that I did want to point out is that there are many, many elements in our society that are unsafe to a lot of us. As a woman, like I gave you the example of that man posturing with the dogs, I am very uncomfortable and feel very unsafe with men. And if it was good enough for women, for me to fear men, but also enough data to support that men are aggressive, to put it that way. I don't want to say anything that might violate the community guidelines, but aggressive towards women and cause harm to women, then maybe we should remove all men from the society and put them in a place with all other men in multiple different shelters so that women are safe. This can apply to multiple other groups of communities who have perpetuated violence against other communities. And I will be fair here that dogs are no way like men or other dominant communities who discriminate against and perpetuate violence against marginalized communities. Dogs are surviving, and the power imbalance is not dogs having more power over humans. Humans have the power over dogs. So even when there are dogs attacking, humans still have the power over dogs. And the power dynamics is no way similar to how it's with men and non-male genders or other such discrimination. So men perpetuate violence against women and other genders and roam scot-free with no consequences, while women continue to remain afraid, fearful of men on streets. One thing that's common in all of them is that the ones with power continue to hold power and hold control over the ones who are marginalized. That is for sure. It's just that now we have managed to flip the narrative that humans are so afraid of dogs, humans are threatened by dogs, humans live a very, very life of fear, which may be true for a lot of people, but our power allows us to do whatever we want with these dogs. And that's what we are doing today. But there are a lot of threatening elements in the society. If this is the precedent that we are setting in such cases, then I think we must extend it into other spaces too. But now, what can we do about this situation? First and foremost, there's already so much panic on ground. So many people are talking about this is already being weaponized. And this misinformation, this era of misinformation or propaganda, let's say, where you put out one thing. Today's news that went out can be weaponized by enough number of people to harass street dog caregivers, to harass street dogs, to harass animal activists, animal welfare organizations, and just in general animal lovers in your resident welfare association conversations, in your interactions with people who don't like street dogs. They will very happily weaponize this information. So, of course, there is panic on ground. One of the important things to remember is right now, this is contained to Delhi, and I'm hoping that with the petitions being signed, with the emails being sent, this will get looked at again and will be overturned. It won't be implemented, it will be relooked at. So, we are hoping for that, but it is at least right now contained there. So, hoping that it doesn't get adopted in other places. There is a petition that you can sign if you'd like to. I'll share that link in the description below. There is a email draft that is being circulated, which you can use to send out to the concerned authorities. All the details are there in the draft. You can share, talk about all of the things that are there in this video, multiple other people who are sharing similar, content around raising awareness about what's happening right now with the street dogs in Delhi. Use the talking points, use the arguments, use the pointers being made by all of us when you're having these conversations with anybody who brings it up, wherever you might need. Share it, share all the things that you're seeing from credible resources and from credible sources. Be vigilant about your street dogs. Be vigilant about the fact that, if your street dogs are being targeted, are being picked up by, even if it is by the municipal corporation, be aware of it. Get in touch with, legal authorities, welfare organizations in your city. So I think this is what we can do on ground and raise our voices against any suggestion by anybody supporting the relocation of street dogs. If you're here all the way till here, then thank you. Like and subscribe. And if you wonder why we talk about street dogs, what is that learn from them, why learning from street dogs is my go-to when it comes to learning about dogs in general and how we can apply that towards our companion dogs, then you can watch this video. And I'll see you in the next one.